Well, let's bring in a great friend of the show, Mr Creighton, Washington correspondent, of course, for The Australian. Adam, welcome. You had presidential nominee Donald Trump declining this week to endorse a national abortion ban. He said that on Monday. Instead, he says it should be left to the states. Now, I think from any perspective, that's a good idea. The more power that is decentralised and is in the hands of the state is good for America in general. Your piece this week, Adam, delved into why the Biden campaign, though, wouldn't be so happy about this.
Yeah, certainly that's right. Well, basically, Donald Trump denied Democrats the ability to run a huge scare campaign in the lead up to the election. I mean, they were really itching for Republicans to propose some sort of ban, whether it be after 6 weeks or 15 weeks or whatever it is. But Trump, I think, has been very clever politically, and he said, look, let's just leave it up to the states. That, after all, is now the law of the land in the US, following the Dobbs decision, which was June 2022, I believe. So it's back in the hands of the states, just like it is in Australia, I might add. So it's really not, not such a crazy concept. So yes, it makes perfect sense. And it's worth pointing out that, well over 50% of Americans think that abortion should be legal in some cases, at least some cases. And so, the last thing Trump wanted was a big fight on this in the lead up to November, when there are so many other things to talk about, the southern border, inflation, etc.
There are a couple of states, though, will be having a question on presidential election day on the ballot paper about abortion. What effect do you think that might have when people come out to vote? Knowing how fractured the US is, the majority, you say, support abortion. Could that actually count against Trump when people are in the ballot box and they're looking at the abortion question and then they've got to look at the presidential question?
Well, look, I don't think so. I mean, I think that would just be federalism in action. I mean, if anything, I think it would reassure any voters who are thinking of voting for Trump that they can tick the box for their state referendum that is pro-abortion, and then they can also vote for Donald Trump federally. So I think it helps him, actually. I think it's a very smart position, and you can see from the reaction of Democrats how furious they were this week with this position. From the Republicans, they really wanted a Lindsey Graham or a Mike Pence, type 6-week ban proposal, which is not going to be forthcoming.
Now, 2 hours after that announcement, the Biden camp organised a press call where, of course, they slammed the coverage of Trump's abortion announcement. And the headlines seemed to start changing after that. So USA Today, for instance, originally covered the news with a headline that said, quote, "The will of the people. Trump opposes national abortion ban, says states should decide." But after the press call, that was updated to, quote, "Donald Trump says states should decide abortion policy, avoids talk of a national ban." It's a little bit less endorsing, I suppose you might say, of the original position. Quite convenient.
Yes, look, that's just typical of the US media. So I'm not particularly surprised by that they take a negative view of whatever Trump says. Indeed, there was a huge fracas this week based on his remarks on Arizona. There was a decision made in the Supreme Court there in that state that would basically ban abortion based on some law from 1864, I believe, which of course is a long way away. And Trump was asked about this on the tarmac somewhere as he was taking off, and he said, "Look, I think that state's gone too far." And of course, then the media was saying, "Oh, he's changed his position." But I mean, he was just expressing his opinion on one state's decision. I think Trump said that they would straighten it out at some point, and of course, that's what's going to happen. I mean, this is democracy. I mean, my view is that many of the laws on the books in these 12 or 15 states that have very strict laws, those laws are out of touch with the will of their citizens, and so it's just a matter of time before they are watered down. So I think that's something that abortion advocates can look forward to.
And I mean, obviously it will probably upset some arch conservatives, but let's be real. Who else are they going to vote for? And Trump has to be in the business of winning the popular vote. Let's go to Joe Biden. He said that he's considering Australia's request to end the decade-long push to prosecute WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, of course, over the release of troves of classified documents. Have a look.
Do you have a response to Australia's request that you end Julian Assange's prosecution?
We're considering it.
Now, of course, it wasn't the most considered answer in the world, though, nor is any answer you get from Joe Biden, really.
No.
But should we take some solace out of this? I suppose, of course, there's been a fair bit of support for Julian Assange across the political spectrum in Australia of late, that perhaps there could be something on the cards. There's been talk of even a plea bargain. We don't know whether or not that would be forthcoming, but should we perhaps take heed that there might be either a lesser sentence or even a drop of the case?
Yes, well, I think we certainly should rather. I think it was good news. Look, it was a very halting answer, I agree, very typical of Joe Biden, but I think that he meant to say it. And certainly the embassy here has taken it seriously. I think the Australian government's taken it seriously. Some of Assange's lawyers who I've spoken to are taking it seriously. And of course, it does come a few weeks after a piece in the Wall Street Journal that says people inside the Justice Department were thinking of downgrading the charges quite significantly to misdemeanors, which would basically mean that he could be released. So I think there is some truth to this, and so there should be. I mean, the Australian Parliament has passed motions on this. There've been a number of visits to Washington from US senators and MPs, pleading for clemency here. And we are one of the US's best allies, maybe the best ally, and so I think we should get something in return from that. And so I do hope that this leads to a dropping of the charges.
Just very quickly, Australia and the AUKUS partners, the US and the UK, have confirmed speculation that they'll consider other countries, including Japan, in some of the alliance's advanced military systems. Obviously, this is likely to antagonise China, given its long opposed AUKUS. What else did we learn from the Prime Minister of Japan's visit, Fumio Kishida's visit to the White House this week?
Well, look, I mean, it was mainly around the AUKUS Pact and the willingness of Japan to take part in projects related, to the second part of AUKUS, which is the development of advanced weapons and advanced weapons systems. Look, I must say it's all very vague and it's very far out into the never. It's quite it's quite hard to get excited as a journalist about, promises that are made for the 2030s. I mean, that's still 7 years away. Many things can happen. Many governments can change. But look, I think it's good news that Japan wants to get involved. But I think there is a risk to some extent with AUKUS of having too many cooks in the kitchen. I mean, as more and more countries want to join, there's more and more bureaucracies, more and more issues. So we really need to bed down, from Australia's point of view, we really need to bed down the subs. That is the most important thing. I think the Pillar 2 bit is quite secondary in my view.
Adam Creighton, thank you so much for your time.